Hilchis Eidus Perik Esrim V'Yechad. So the Ram continues Prati Adinim Negei Edom Zeimim. Now, Edom Zeimim pastors, when Edom trying to be Mechayiv Mammon, so we do Kasher Zomim, and they have to pay Mammon to the person they were trying to be Mechayiv Mammon. And we divide it amongst the Edom. If they were trying to be Mechayiv Malchus, so they get Malchus. If they were trying to be Mechayiv Misa, so then they get Misa. Now, there's some times where we learned that they don't get Kasher Zomim, you get Malchus. The Ram mentioned the 4 cases. If they come and say that the person is a Ben Grushim and Chalutza, or they're coming and saying that he's Chayiv Golus, or they're saying he's Chayiv Kefer, because his share, which was a share Amuit, killed somebody, or they're saying that he was Nimka Be'avidivri. In those 4 cases, we have a special limud that you're not Mekayim Kasher Zomam, but rather they get Malchus. Now, there are other cases where the whole musig of Kasher Zomam is not Shaykhs, like we learned Benegeh Eidikini Yustira, Adam that said that the woman, that he was Mekana, and that there was Stira, and therefore she has to be Sheisa from the Mayim. So in such a case, it's not Shaykh, it's the Inyan of Kasher Zomam. So over there's a special limud that we learn out, you get Malchus. You get Malchus in such a case, we learn it out from the Pasik, from Kash, V'tzdikus Atzadik, V'hoyim bin HaKeser Rosha. And then there's also other cases where it's not so clear, you have to exactly what they were trying to be Mechayiv, and Mela what they get to Mechayiv. That's the Rambam is going to discuss in this Perik. Perik Esrim Ve'echot. Eidim she'idu shepleini girash ishtei, and v'lei nosum l'ksuba v'huzmu. So basically they're saying right now that he was Megarish, and he owes her a ksuba. Now l'chur estamazeh, if they come along and they say that Reuven owes Shimon money, and Lepel they're found to be Zaymimim, so obviously the money that they said that Reuven owes Shimon money, so that money they have to pay to Reuven. That's the Pashta Zav, that Kasher Zomam, they were trying to be Mechayiv him money, they have to pay him. That money they were Mechayiv. So over here also, l'chura, they were trying to Mechayiv the Baal to give the Isha a ksuba, so the Pashtas l'chura, they should have to give the Baal that money that he will have to pay for a ksuba. But the Maisa is, since this Baal is the Chmarit, and therefore he's already in a position that the fact that he owes a ksuba is already a potential. Whereas it's not the psharis they're coming for a new person, they're saying he owes the person money. He's already in a position where there's a potential that he's going to owe her a ksuba. It's the only thing is that they said that potential is no longer a potential, it's a reality. He owes her a ksuba. Now the question is, how do we assess how much worse is it to be in a potential to owe the ksuba and to actually owe the ksuba? The chura, I mean, it's not. When you don't know anything, and then all of a sudden you're saying you owe money, so that's the whole thing is that the person doesn't know anything. You're saying he owes $100, so it means that he was trying to be mafsed him $100. But over here he's already in a potential to owe these to Masayim Zuz. It's only he's saying that it's not only a potential, he actually owes it. So the question is, what's the matzav of making something from a potential into an actuality? So the Maisa says the Rambam has a different shita, but when you learn in the Gemara in Rashi, the Pashas Pshat in Rashi over there, and the Mishnah Makkah of Gimel, the Pshat is Azay. A person is in a potential, he's going to owe a ksuba. Now we're saying he owes a ksuba b'peil. So how much worse, in other words, how much worse off is he from his original position to the position that he is now? So we have to make a cheshbon like this. A woman has a ksuba, she has a potential that the husband should pay her a ksuba. Now how much is that ksuba worth? Could she sell that ksuba? She could go ahead and sell that ksuba, and someone will buy the ksuba with having that right of that potential. With having that right of the potential, a person will buy it. So she'll be able to go sell, let's see, she has a ksuba from a Sayim Zuz, and she'll go sell it for 50 Zuz, and someone will buy it with the thought that if Lepel, there'll be a time to be Monday ksuba, so he'll get the 200 Zuz, and if not, he lost the 50 Zuz, whatever the cheshbon would be. Now Lepel, the husband, could also buy the ksuba from her. Pale, maybe he can't buy the ksuba because we have a problem of living without a ksuba. But in Indian, the husband also, there's the value of what the ksuba is worth, and the husband could buy that ksuba. So we'll say, what position is the husband right now? He's married. There's a potential that he is going to owe her a ksuba. So he's like a kilo, $50 he already lost. He already lost $50. How did he lose $50? Because he would be willing to pay $50 not to be in this position of having the potential to pay her a ksuba, to buy off this, just like someone else would buy it off from her, so he could also buy it off from her. So Mela, $50 he already lost. V'harai, he would be willing to pay $50. Or someone else would be willing to pay $50. Now you're trying to make him lose the whole ksuba. So you take the whole ksuba, deducting those $50, and that's the value that he's trying to make her lose, to make this person lose. That would be the pashas. You would assess how much she would able to sell her ksuba for, and that amount is already in the matzav where he is already. Kilo, he already lost that because he's in that position where he may owe the ksuba, so therefore he'd be willing to buy it. And therefore, the fact that he's right now has to actually pay the ksuba, he would have paid the ksuba, he would have paid the 50 now anyways without these Eidim. So the only thing that the Eidim did was add whatever it is besides this money that he would be willing to pay now. That would be L'chura, the Pashta Pshat. That's the way Rashi says Pshat in the Mishnah in Makkos. The Maisa says, we'll soon see, the Rambam doesn't say this Pshat. Let's read again inside. Eidim she'idu shepleni gira shishti. Eidim are saying Eidus that this person divorced his wife, and he didn't pay the ksuba. So basically, he owes her the ksuba. Now, v'huzmu, they became Eidim Zaymin. Now, the question is, l'chura, you can't say he has to pay the whole ksuba. The Eidim have to pay the whole ksuba. So it's not like taking someone that didn't know anything and you're saying he owes money because he already had a potential of owing. So how do you assess the potential of owing to the actual owing? So we say as how much would a person be willing to pay for this woman's ksuba? She'll sell it b'tevis hano, that person will have the right to mon the ksuba if the ksuba will become in a matzav where you could mon. Now the Rambam continues. So if the Rambam would say right now, and you deduct that from the Dmei HaKsuba, so that would be what we just said before, which is Shitas Rashi, that you deduct that from the Dmei HaKsuba, and now you know what these Eidim were trying to hurt the Baal with. But the Rambam doesn't say that. The Rambam says, Umishalman Dmei Tevis Hanozu, this amount of money that she would be able to sell the Ksuba for, that's how we assess it, and then that's Pasha's what he has to give. So the husband has to give the value of what she would be able to sell this ksuba for. Which l'chura, what does that shaykhs have to do with what these Eidim were trying to do back to the husband? But she was in a position she could sell the ksuba, and Lepel now they're trying to say that the Eidim were saying that he owes the ksuba. So bishlam, if we deduct that amount from the ksuba, is understandable. Masha'inkin to say that they pay the tevis hanoah is hard to understand. Why did he pay the tevis hanoah? So that was Lechem Mishnah brings. And in Yerushalmi it says that Be'emes, when they causing him to have to pay the ksuba, so the Chura lets us value how much they tried to hurt him. As we said, let's deduct what she should get from the ksuba from the amount of money that he owes now. But on the other hand, he also gains right now. In other words, it's not only a loss, because Lepel, through the fact that they're saying he divorced her, and Memele owes her a ksuba, he doesn't owe her anything else. Normally a person owes her mezenes. There's many chiyuvim, there's a chiyuvim that a man has towards his wife. So Memele, by saying that he owes the ksuba, it's not only a loss, but it's also there's a gain that he doesn't have to pay for her mezenes. And therefore Chazal were Meshayir that how do you assess this loss that he's having? So on one hand he's having a loss that he has to pay now the ksuba. On the other hand he has a gain that he doesn't have to be mefarnes anymore. Alpi these Eidim. So Memele, so since there's a loss and there again, so Chazal said that we should be Meshayir the loss by assessing the value of her ksuba. That's how the Lechem Mishnah says, and that's also Yerushalmi it says, which is different than the way Rashi says. The way Rashi says, it's easier to understand. In other words, we're assessing how much were they trying to hurt the husband. They were trying to hurt the husband's chiyuv now, minus of what he'd be willing to pay now without them coming. Masha'inkin, according to this pshat, it comes out that they have to pay the husband what the woman would have gotten if she would have wanted to sell the ksuba. I'll quote them, that's what it says here in Rambam. Kama odem reitzel litin b'ksubasa shalzu, shetim kereisa b'teves hano, u'mishalmen teves hano zu. And mishar, when you mishar, how you mishar, how much would she be able to get for a ksuba? Misharim b'isha b'ksubasa. What does that mean? In other words, say about the isha, you have to see what the matzav of the isha is, and also what the matzav of the ksuba is. Shema isha is a choyla yiskena. She's a woman who knows, well, if a person's going to buy a ksuba, the idea is going to be that he's buying the ksuba with the thought that if she'll get divorced, or if he'll die, so then he'll be able to collect the ksuba. Masha'inkin, if she dies first, so then the ksuba will never be mont. It'll never come into, so what he bought will never really come into fruition. So Mamela, we have to assess how much would the person be willing to pay for the ksuba. What are the chances of him coming to collect the ksuba? She was sick or old, so the chances are that she's going to die before the husband, so the ksuba will never be mont. So also the ksuba is not really something which is imminent because there's peace between her and her bailam. So then is ein dmei ksuba kshitimocher. So the value of the ksuba when it's sold k'mei domain hoyseisha brio ktana. If the woman was a brio ktana and yesh b'neim ktata, or she's sai young and sai there's an argument between them. So the chances are she's going to get divorced. She's not going to die before he dies, and also before he gives her a divorce during his lifetime. And also, chances are that she's going to get a divorce because they're arguing with each other. It's closer that Gerushin should take place and not that he's going to die. So that's one thing you have to take into account. What are the chances of her actually coming to mon the ksuba? And Mela, how much would someone be willing to pay for this ksuba? If you tevis ksuba muatas. Now, when you the value of a large ksuba is not the same like the value of a small ksuba. Now, that's obvious that the value of a large ksuba is not the same as the value of a small ksuba. But the point is that it also doesn't work according to the ratio. In other words, it's not the same percentage a person would pay for the amount of the large ksuba as a person would pay as the value of a small ksuba. She'im hoysik ksuba se'elav zuz. If let's say her ksuba was 1,000 zuz, is arini keres b'tevis ano b'meir. So then she'd be able to maybe get a tenth of its value, 100. Now that doesn't mean that Moisa Meya is Einim Keres Basara. Masha'enkin, a person would be willing to invest more money on the possibility of getting more money. Masha'enkin, a person is not willing to invest 10 zuz in order to get Meya zuz, because Meya zuz is not that much. So mainly he wouldn't even give 10 zuz. Moisa Meya Einim Keres Basara El B'Pachas. So they have to assess what is the matzav of the chances, the likelihood of she actually coming to a matzav of collecting a ksuba. That's one issue. And another issue is what's the value of the ksuba. And you don't go by percentage. You say, well, the value of the ksuba, you go the percent. It doesn't work by percent. A larger ksuba, so the percent of how much he would be willing to pay is greater than the smaller ksuba of how much a person would be willing to pay to have the chances of being able to get this smaller ksuba. Halacha beis. Heidu al zeh shechayev l'pleini elev zuz al menas litin mikan v'ashleishim yen. Two Eidim come along and say that Ruvain owes Shimon 1,000 zuz and he has to pay it in a month from now. And v'haleva emer, and Levi is tining, Ruvain is tining, the Levi is saying, no, at chomesh shanim achar shleishim yen. I don't have it in a month from now. I have it in a month plus 5 years. So in other words, they're arguing whether he has an extra 5 years to pay, or he doesn't have an extra 5 years to pay. And v'nimtzu zeimim, and these people were found to be zeimim. So they were trying to cause him to have to pay. He knows the money he's going to have to pay anyways, because but they both agree he is moida that he has to pay the money. The chiddush is only when he has to pay the money, and they're tining that he has to pay the money in a month, and he's tining that he has to pay the money in a month and 5 years. So how do we assess it? How much would be a person willing to pay in order to postpone the payment for 5 years? Because he has this elev zuz. How much would a person be willing to pay to postpone the payment for 5 years, or to have elev zuz for 5 years? He'll owe the money, but he's going to have it for 5 years. This is what you have to pay the leva. You're trying to be mafsid the leva that he has to pay earlier, 5 years earlier. So how much is the worth of having this money 5 years earlier? That's what they were trying to be mafsid. Halacha Gimel. Heidu al sheini shel zeh shenogach. They're saying about the person's ox that he was negeach. V'nimtzu zeimimim. Then they were found to be zeimimim. There was the time that they said he was negeach in the place. Other Eidim came along and said imanu ha'yisem. So the din is mishalma chatzi nezik, because we're talking about a tam. So they only pay a chatzi nezik. V'im ein asher shava chatzi nezik. But if the share that was negeach is not worth the full chatzi nezik, is only mishalma dmei asher bilvad. They only have to pay the dmei asher. Why? Because she'ein mishalma chatzi nezik al migufe. When a person pays chatzi nezik, he doesn't pay chatzi nezik regardless. He only pays chatzi nezik from the goof of the behemoth. So if the behemoth is not worth the chatzi nezik, so memela they weren't trying to be mafsid him the whole chatzi nezik, because the nizik wouldn't have gotten the whole chatzi nezik. The most the nizik could only get is the share which was mazik. So memela they only have to pay the dmei asher bilvad lefichach. So this is only talking about when we're talking about a keren, which there's a siyas of a tam, and a tam is only mishalom chatzi nezik, and he's mishalom megufe. Lefichach im yudol of shachol peiris. We're not talking about Nogach, we're talking about the Eidus was that the share was Achel Peres, a Shavar Kalim, B'derech Hiluchi, which is Shein Regel, and Shein Regel is a Muad B'tchilosan, so it's Mishalem and Ezek Sholim, and it's Mishalem not Migufe, but it's Minohali, he pays from his own pocket, so then it's Mishalem and Ezek Sholim, V'chein Kol Kietzibas. Halacha Dalet. Heidu al Pleni, Shehipul Shein Avdei, V'achar Kach Sima Eseinei. Now the din is that an Evet Knaini is Yetze B'Shein V'ayim. So the Pashas Advarim, we learned this din, is if once the Odin was Simes, Hipul Shinei, so Memele he has to let him out free, he goes free. Now after that he was Simes Einei, so then he has to go and pay him for the Meyene. In other words, if he would be his Eved, so Memele by Simes Einei, so Lepel he goes out free, but there's no Chiv of the Odin, no monetary Chiv of the Odin to the Eved. But if Lepel, the Eved already went out free through Hippolashine, so now he has to pay him the money for Simesene. So this is the he either will play Nishil Pilshein Avde, Vacharkach Simesene, and then Vahuzlu. And then they were found to be Samim. The whole story is there was Samim. The story, the time when they said this happened, they were elsewhere. The Edom are saying that they were with them elsewhere. So the din is Mishalman La'odn Dmei Ha'eved Udmei. They wanted to be mafsim the Odin, two things. They wanted to be mafsim the Evet by the fact that they're saying that he was Hippolishine, and they were also trying to be mafsim the Odin, the Dmei of the Ain, because by trying to say that after the Shein they were he was Simasene. That's this din. So that's this. Now, Mamas this din is shver. The Ravid asks the Rambam Paskins in Chevel Mazik that when a person is Chevel Ba'avdei and Memele, let's say Hippolishine. So it's not that the Eved goes immediately out free. There's a knas on the Odin that he has to free him and he has to give him a shtar shikhr. But until he actually gives him a shtar shikhr, he's not really free. And therefore, if he was Hippolishine and then Simes Einei, so since Lepel he didn't yet give him a shtar shikhr in between, so he's still an Eved. And since he's still an Eved, so you don't have to pay for Simes Einei. That's what the Rambam Paskins in Chevel Umazik. But the Rambam says that if the Eved was Toifus, the Dmei Einei, then he gets the Dmei Einei. So the question is over here, what's the pshat? Over here, the Rambam from the Rambam it sounds like that once he was Hippolishine, so Memele he already becomes a free man, and it's pasha that he owes him for the Dmei Evet. And Memele, now when they found Zemimim, they have to pay the Odin side for the Evet and side for the Dmei Einei. L'chura the Dmei Einei, he wasn't chayiv, because Lepel, until you give a shtar shikhr, you don't have chayiv Dmei Einei. The thing is, the Rambam over there says that Tfisa helps. So some people want to say that the Pshat is over here also, since they said Eidus. Memele, they turuv that the Eved Tfisa helps. So here also Tfisa is going to help. If the Odin is going to be Toifus from these Eidim, so Memele, Tfisa helps and be able to work. I mean, it doesn't say that in the Rambam. But that'll be L'chura, one way of saying Pshat. That the Pshat is that he's Mishalman, L'odin, Me'eved, Me'eni. It doesn't mean the actual Mishalman. It means when Beneged Me'eni, it'll help Tfisa. But L'chura, it's not such a Glat Pshat, because that's not the Pashtus Saloshn of Rambam. But I'll call upon this is a kasha that the Ravid asks on the Rambam. Then the Rambam continues, Heidu Shesimes Einei Vachar Kachipul L'Shem. These Eidim are coming along and they're saying that he was Simes Einei. First, he blinded him, and which through that he became Meshucher. And Vachar Kachipul L'Shinei, which over there's not really a serious monetary loss of Hipul L'Shinei. So that was the Eidus that these Eidim are giving. And V'huzmu, and they became Eidim Zeimin, and V'nimtza Hadova Hefach. And now it's Fakert. What's Fakert? Shaha'odin Hipul L'Shinei, V'achar Kach Simes Einei. What really happened was the opposite. That the Odin was Hipul L'Shinei, and then he was Simes Einei. So the din is, Mishalman Dmei Ayin Le'eved V'chein Kol Kiyetz B'zeh. It's not so clear here in Rambam, but the way the Lech Mishnah says Pshat, and the Amos of Kiveg also says this in Baba Kama, the Fayin Daled, and the Gilin Hashas, that the Pshat is Azay. We're talking about in a case, again, it doesn't say this in the Rambam, the din is Azay. It's talking in a case where there was already a Gemar Din. In other words, if there wasn't a Gemar Din yet about the Eved, so L'churi, even if Aliba de Emes, this and this happened, but since Lepel, these Eidim came along and tried to do something against the Odin before being a Gemar Din on the Odin, so Mele, they should be Mechuyev the Dmei Evet to the Odin, since what they're saying didn't really happen, or they didn't see it happen. So even if it really happened somewhere else, before that or after that, But either way, l'chura, they tried to be mechayev the odin something which didn't yet happen, and it didn't yet happen bepale. That's what we learned before. We learned that if they come along and they say that this person killed, even Ali b'damas he killed, but if there was no psak din that he's chayev misa, so then they're chayev misa for trying to kill him, even though Ali b'damas he killed. Now that is a b'negesh chiyuv moment. Even Ali b'damas is mechuyev the moment, but since when they said this Eidus, there was no yet gemar din on it, so therefore they have to. There's a din of kasha zomam. So over here also you have to learn pshat hazeh, that they're coming along and they're saying what happened was that he was first simas einei and hipul shini. That's what they're saying. And lepeil, it's huzmu, and acharkach nimtza hepach hadavar. You have to add that there was already a gemar din earlier. Because what happened was that there was already a gemar din earlier, and over there they paskin that lepeil he's yoytzel lecheres, that the eved should be yoytzel lecheres, because he was hipul first as shinei, and also that the eved should get money because later he was hipul shinei. That was so. In other words, there was already a psak din that the odin should lose the eved, and that the eved should receive the mei enei. Now they're coming along and saying Eidus, and they're trying to say Eidus that the odin that he goes out free because of the ayin, and that he doesn't receive the mei enei because the shein happened later. So really, as far as the odin is concerned, they really didn't change anything. Because lepel, there was a psak din that the eved goes out free. That was already a psak din earlier. Now the question has only been again the eved. Originally there was a psak din that the eved deserves the me'enei. Now they're saying Eidus that he only deserves the me'shini. Or he doesn't, or if the me'shini is worth anything, but it's certainly worth less than the me'enei. So memela, so that they have to pay the odin. That would be the case. Let's read it again. So Eidus shesimas einei v'acharka chipul l'shini. That was their Eidus right now. That simas einei v'acharka chipul l'shini v'huzmu and v'nimtza dover hefach. So you have to add v'nimtza dover hefach, and that already was a gemar din about it. There was a gemar din about it. Sha'odin hipul l'shini v'acharka simas einei. So as far as the odin is concerned, they didn't do anything to the odin because lepel there was already a gemar din that the eved goes out free. And over there was the gemar din because he was first hipul shinei. Now they're saying because he was first hipul shinei. But as far as that the odin is mechuyev l'shachar avdi, that's pashut. So masha'inkim and again the eved, they tried to be mafsid him because there was already a psak din that he gets the mei enei, and now they're saying no, he only gets mei shinei. So here in Mishalmet mei ayin le'eved v'chein kol ki yetzeh b'zeh. Halacha hey, eidei kini ustira shehuzmu leikin. So you have the Metzias of a Baal, which was Kinei Be'ishtei, and then there was Nistira, and then you have the Eidim that are coming along and saying Eidus that there was Kinoi and Stira, either the Eidei Kino, the Eidei Stira, they're coming together, that there's Eidei Kinoi or Stira. Now, Lepel, they were found to be Eidim Zemim. So the Shnat Shaychas over here, the union of Kashazama, the whole din of Kashazam is only by Eshesish. Mashenkin, these Eidim and not Shaychas Kashazam. So here we have a special limud, that since it's not shaykhs kashazam, so they get malchus. That's this din. Eidei kinu stira shehuzmu is like and they get malchus. Bo eidachot v'heyet shezin so acher kinu stira. You have over here the din is that if there was eidim that there was kinu stira, and then there's an eidachot that says is nitma, so that prevents her possibility of being shoisa from the mayim hamorim, from the meiseta, and being able to cleanse herself. Normally, when you have kinu stira, she has the option to be sheisa. That's the seita goes to be sheisa from the mayim hamorim. Masha'inkein, once there's eidachot that nitmes, so she loses her ksuba and he divorces her, and the whole process of the mayim is not shaychus already. The eidachot is naman. So now there was a matzav of kinu sfira, and now there was an eidachot that comes and says that she was nitmes. So basically, they're saying that she loses her ksuba and she doesn't have a right to get her ksuba. So and the lepel v'nimtza oisei zemim is mishal ksuba, so he has to pay the ksuba because lepel she had first a right to get the ksuba, and now he has to pay for the ksuba. Now the question is, he paid the full ksuba because lepel she didn't have the ksuba yet; it was only just a potential to have the ksuba, or does she only pay the over here? There would be the pashtus. She knows they're making it that it's not possible for her to have a ksuba. Memela she cannot sell her rights to have the ksuba. In other words, she's not actually she doesn't have the ksuba. But lepel, they're preventing her from having her rights to be able to sell the ksuba because she loses her ksuba. So mishal ksuba, so it wouldn't mean they actually pay the ksuba; they pay the dmei ksuba. Now this is talking about that there were eidei kinu stira, and then there was an eidachot that says nitmas. Now how you shnayim? there was two Eidim, which vehein Eidi Akini v'Astira v'Atuma. L'chura, the word Kini and Stira, you have to understand, because L'chura, if Shnaim, there's no din of Kini and Stira. There was two Eidim that are saying that she was Nitmas. There's two Eidim that are saying she is Nitmas. And v'nimtzu Zeim is Mishalman Kineged Aksuba, vein Leikin. In other words, they don't get Malchus. There's no Malchus over here, because since they tried, there's the Eidi Kini and Stira, which weren't Mafsadik Ksuba. Eidi Kini and Stira aren't Mafsadik Ksuba, because she always has the option to drink. So since they're not Mafsadik Ksuba, so the only thing that we're trying to do is forcing her to have to drink if she wants the ksuba. So then they get malchus. Masha'inkan, when you have Eidi Tumah, so Eidi Tumah, there's no drinking. They're being mafsad of the ksuba. So over here, they have to pay for the ksuba, just like the Eidechod have to pay the ksuba. Pasha, what if the Eidechod has to pay for the whole ksuba? So then the two Eidim have to pay for the whole ksuba. If the Eidechod only has to pay for the value of how much she could sell the ksuba, so the same thing would apply to the two Eidim. V'nimtzu Zeim is Mishal, Kineged ksuba, and Vein Leikin. They don't get malchus. Why? Why don't they get malchus? Because that's the rule. The rule is if you get money, you don't pay malchus. Because the only Eidim that have to get malchus is in the case of Hayim bin Akeserosh. If there's nothing else you can get, so then you get malchus. Masha'inkin, if they get mammon, so then you don't get malchus. Now, v'lama le'hargu, l'chura, if they're coming along Eidi Tumah, so l'chura there should be a hargu. V'reyidu b'tumah, so the answer is l'fish le'yisrubay. Because you can have two Eidim being made on a woman that she was nitmas, and lepel she's asura lebaila. The saying she's asura lebaila, and she loses oksuba. But on the other, she's not chayiv misa, because lepel they're not saying that they were maser. They're just saying that they saw that she was nitmis. Halacha vav. Shnayim shehidu al zeh shegonav v'tovach imocher. That this person, he went ahead and was gonav a sheri seh, and he was after that tovach, or he was mocher. And v'huzmu, and then they were found to be zeimim, about the whole story. So this is Mishalman Sakil, so they have to pay everything. They have to pay the Dalit of the Hay. Now, Eidus Shnaim Shegonav. Two people said that he was Gonav. And then the Eidus Shnaim Acherim Shetavach Umacher. So the first two Eidim said Gonav. And the second two Eidim said Tavach Umacher. And V'huzmu Elu Ve'elu. Side the first Eidim became Zeimimim. And side the second pair of Eidim became Zeimimim. Is Hariyah Rishayim Mishalman Tashlumi Kefil. Because that's what they tried to be Mechayev. Through Gonav, they were being Mechayev Tashlumi Kefil. V'achreinim, and the second pair of Eidus, which are saying Gonav Tavach Umachar, so they're Mishayim Shlayim V'Shleishim. So they're Shlayim V'Shleishim, because they want to be Mechayev, besides the Kefil, another two or another three, depending by a Seh, another two, and by a Sher, another three. Now, Huzmu Ho'achreinim Bilvad, if only the second pair of Eidus were Huzmu. So here, we have the first pair of Eidus, which are saying Gonav. We have the second pair of Eidus, which are saying Tavach Umachar. And now we have the second pair of Eidus, which became Huzmu. So again, it's L'chura Pashut. Hariyash Ganef Mishalem Tashlumi Kefil. The Ganef Mishalem Tashlumi Kefil, because there was no one ever contradicted his Eidus. V'o'edim Achreina Mishalem L'Ganef Tashlumi Arba V'chamisha. So they have to pay to the Ganef, the person that was Taka Ganef, Tashlumi Arba V'chamisha, which L'chura means 3 or 4, because they wanted to be Mafsid him an extra 3 or 4. And the 2 was anyways, he was Taka Mafsid. But they wanted to add another 2 or 3. There's Tashlumi Arba V'chamisha, so that they have to pay to the Ganef. So that's l'chura a straightforward din. If one pair of Eidus said everything, so then he has to pay Dalet V'Hei. If there's 2 pair of Eidus, and the first pair of Eidus will huzam, and the second pair of Eidus will huzam, so they have to pay kefil, and they have to pay the extra besides the 2 or 3 B'negei Arba V'Hei. If only the second pair of Eidus will huzam, and the first pair of Eidus remains, so the Ganef pays kefil, and the second pair of Eidus pay kasser zoma. Now, only one of the second pair of Eidus became a Zem. So the din is Botla Eidus Shnia. So then the Eidus Shnia is Botla, so there's no din Kasher Zomam. It's just that Botla Eidus Shnia, and again, the Eidul Rishena remains. What happens if one of the Rishenim found to be a Zemim? So now it's Botla Kol Eidus. So the whole Eidus is Botla. Why? Because once one of the Eidim became a Zemim, so Memele becomes, the whole cut becomes puzzle. So we have no Eidus for the Gneva. Once we have no Eidus for the Gneva, so the Tvichol Mechira is meaningless. The Eidus for the Tvichol Mechira is only when it's an Eidus which is behemshel to the Gneva. There was a Gneva, and now there was a Tvichol Mechira, so we take the Eidus of the Tvichol Mechira. Masha'enkin, if there's no Gneva, so there's no Tvichol Mechira. So again, Nimtza Echad, Min HaRishayim Zeimim, a bottle Kol Eidus, Shemein Gneva, in Tvichol Mechira, B'chayv Vosel, L'Shalom Klum. So Memela becomes bottle the whole Eidus. Halacha Zayin. Shnayim shehidu she'achol sodazu shalosh shanim. You have two people that are saying the din is that Cheska Shalashanim is Meitzi from a Marakama. You have an original owner of the field, and now someone else is sitting in this field, and he has Eidus that he's been in this field for the last 3 years. For 3 years, not the last 3 years, he was been there for 3 consecutive years, and he doesn't have a star. So the din is that since he's there for 3 consecutive years, and he's tiny, he bought it from the original owner, he's believed. That's Cheska Shalashanim. So Shnaim Sheidu She'achol Sodah Shu Shalashanim. We have 2 Eidim that are saying that this person, which is the Muhzik, was in this field for the last 3 years, and Lepel, so Mele, the field goes over from the Marakama to the Muhzik, and V'nimtzu Zeimim, and they're found to be Zeimim, is Mishalma, L'Bal HaSodah, Dmei HaSodah, because they were trying to be Mafsid, the Dmei HaSodah from the original owner, and put it Becheskas of this Muhzik. Now, Eidus Shnayim She'achlu Shana Rishayna. You have 2 Eidus which said Eidus that he ate it 1 year. Then Shnayim She'achlu Shana Shniya, and there are another 2 that say he ate it the 2nd year. Ushnayim She'achlu Shana Shlishis, and another 2 that said he ate it the 3rd year. And Lepel, 3 together, those 3 together, as a result of that, he has a Cheskas Shalashanim. V'huz Mukulim, and they all became Eidim Zeimim. So the din is Mishalshin B'neim. So all 3 of them together were trying to put this field, the Cheskas of this Muzik. 2 of them, and those all 3 kites of the Eidim were trying to put this karka becheskas of this new muzik and taking it out of the cheskas marikama. So in Mela, so they divide amongst each other how much they have to pay. That's shaval pisha. Why? Even though lepel, there are 3 separate pairs of Eidus. So normally 3 pairs of Eidus don't really share the money. As far as Azam is concerned, they're considered Eidus Achas. Now, what does it mean, the 3 separate pairs of Eidus? So we're still going to learn that you can have, when you have 1 pair of Eidus, so you can't have 2 brothers and 1 pair of Eidus. You can't have 2 brothers saying Eidus together. But if you have L'moshel Cheska Shalashanim, and you have 3 separate brothers, 1 brother is speaking about the 1st year, the 2nd brother is talking about the 2nd year, and the 3rd brother is talking about the 3rd year. So Lepel, together with someone else, either the same someone else or another, or each one has another partner. But Lepel, you can have 3 brothers speaking about 1 field and saying that this field was for 3 years b'cheskes amuzik. And Lepel, there's no psul of kravim, because each brother is saying about another year. So Mimela knows you have 1 brother, let's say Reuven, with somebody saying about 1 year, Shimon with someone else saying about the next year, and Levi with someone else, or the same person could be there. I'm going to say the case of the same person saying about the 3rd year. So they're not considered that the 3 brothers saying 1 Eidus. So Legabi that they're considered 1 Eidus, separate Eidus rather. But Legabi Azama they're considered 1 Eidus, and therefore since they're 1 Eidus, so therefore Mishal shall be named. That's what the Rambam is saying. Shaval Pisha Eidus Achazok Sholish Eidus. There's 3 separate idiots. Is Harei Hein Keidus Achaz LaZom. As far as Azam is concerned, they're Eidus Achas, and therefore when they're Huzam, so Mishal shall be named. Mishal shall be named. Lefichach. Shleisha Achim ve'echod. If you have 3 brothers plus another 1, which is not related to any of them, is mitzdarevim kol echad ve'echad nachmal. Lefichach shleisha Achim. If you have 3 brothers, ve'echad mitzdarevim kol echad ve'echad. And you have another 1 person that's mitzdarev with each of the brothers, either the same person or different people. Ve'idu b'shana shana. And each one of them were made on a different year. Each brother with someone else was made on another year. So the din is Harei Elu Sholish Idiyas is considered Sholish Idiyas. That is Kaim Bem Chazok, and the Chazok is the Skaim through them. So knows even though they're craven, but since it's 3 separate Idiyas, because each one said about a different year, so we made it this Kaim Bem Chazoka. However, Vehem Keidus Achas LaZoma, as far as Azoma is concerned, Hareim Keidus Achas. She'im Huzmu Kulam, if they all 3 of them, all 3 pairs became Huzma, is Harei Ashleisha Achim Mishalmel Chasid Me'asod. The 3 brothers together, all 3 brothers together have to pay Chasid Me'asod because each one was part of the Eidus of each year. V'zesh and Nitzaref and Kolechad Mem, and this person that was Nitzaref and Kolechad, and this one person that was Nitzaref with Reuven, he was Nitzaref with Shimon, he was Nitzaref with Levi, so he is Mishalm Chasid Me'asod. He also has to pay Yef. So in other words, really to say like each, we could say really, like each set of Eidus of these 3 have to pay a third, and then amongst each other they have to pay half of the third. So maybe it comes out that the 3 brothers are together, they pay half, they pay a half, and the other one pays also half. That's this thing. Halacha ches. Sholish kiti edim sheniskayim beidusam shesher zumut. So you have 3 pairs of Eidus, and each one Eidus says that this tam was negeach. Now you have all three of them together, so this tam becomes a mut. Now once he becomes a mut, so if this share is going to be negeach now, he's going to be chayiv an ezek shalom. He's not going to be chayiv a chotzi nezek. He's going to be chayiv an ezek shalom. There's no chamal. Shalish klite edus. You have three pairs of edus. Sheniskayim beidusim, that through their edus was niskayim shesher zamud, that this share is a mud. And lepel is v'nitzas katri sheinu shnia zeimim. The first two kites were found zeimim. So the din is kulam pturim. They're all potter. They're all potter as far as any results of muad came from their edus, because lepel didn't come. Lepel, since two of them were found zeimim, so obviously this share never ended up being a muad. Lepel, the share is not a muad, so there's nothing to talk about it. And again, the third, these two pairs, obviously each one has to pay the chotzi nezik that he was trying to be mechayev. We're talking about over here that these three together collectively were trying to make this share into a mud, and memela cause a hezek to the owner by the fact that this share is a mud. So we're saying, since the kat rishein and shni were found zeimim, so obviously the share is not a mud, so memela everyone's potter. Now nimtzu shloshtem zeimim, lepel, all three are found zeimim. So memela, obviously each one has to pay for the hezek that he maybe caused. However, kulam chayavim l'shalem hanezek, over here means the chotzi nezek. Yeah, some ger is the chotzi nezek. Sham kulam chayavim l'shalem chotzi nezek. Whereas the chotzi nezek means, let's say, the fourth negicha. So through all three of them, so this fourth negicha is considered a negicha of a muad as opposed to a tam, because there's three of them that were made that he was negech three times already. Memela, they have to be mishtatif in that chotzi nezek. Sha'aval pishu tam mishalom chotzi nezek. The reason why they only pay this, according to the Girsa, that chayav mishalom chotzi nezek is verstandig, because sha'aval pishu tam is mishalom chotzi nezek. Either way, he would have to pay chotzi nezek. So the fact that he has to pay a nezek shalom is only an extra chotzi nezek. So they have to be mishtativ in the chotzi nezek. So, B'kitzur, the din is you have three pairs of Eidim, each one said about one negicha, and now this share is a muad, and now the share is negech out a muad, and the reason why it's a muad is as a result of those first three pairs of Eidim. So therefore, those first three pair of Eidim have to be mishtativ in the nezek that this muad caused. In other words, the chotzi nezek, the extra chotzi nezek that this muad has to pay. So these three have to be mishtativ in it. That's the din of kasher zoma. Now, when do we say that there's a din of kasher zoma and they have to pay? That's only when there's the pashtos that they intended of making the share into a mud. But medvar mamurim. So now the question is like this: each kat could try to listen. I had no idea that there's other kitas involved over here. My interest b'chlal wasn't that this share should become a mud. My interest was only that since the share was mazik, so I wanted to pay a chotzi nezik. Now you're trying to be mechayiv now these two edim for the fact that they were making the share into a mud and causing that the owner should have to pay a nezik shalom by the fourth nezik. He's saying, I had no idea that there was another two people that were saying this Eidus, and they were saying Eidus also about another two negichas. I mean, it is becoming mud. All I was interested in making this share to pay a chotzi nezik. So how are you taking from me now in the Dmei Nezik Shalom? So now we're saying like this: Medvar Mamurim, that you're going to take from the three pairs of Eidim, also Yishtatvos in this Nezik Shalom. Kshahoya Kulam Reimzim Zezah. We saw that these three people were being Reimzim Zezah. So mainly we see that they're coming as a group. In other words, they can't tell that we're independent people. We don't really realize that through our Eidus we're making them a mud. No, we see that they're being reimzim zezeh. They're hinting to each other. In other words, they're showing to each other that they're like one party. That's one possibility. Eishabo Ritzufa, where they came mamish together, and Memela, each one said his Eidus after the other. So each one was aware of what the other one was saying. So it was clear that they're making this share into a mud. Another situation is Shahoyu Makirim Bal Asher V'Yikiru Asher. They bechlal can't time that they came not to make him a mud, but they came in order to mechayiv the share, because it's talking about the lehikiru asher. They come along and they say that we want to say Eidus, that from this person's flock, from this person's animals, one of the shvarim was negech. So what are they gaining from it? They're not gaining anything. They're not gaining right now a chiyuv, because lepel since a time is only mishalim migufei, and we don't know which guf it is, so you can't take anything. So what they gain is only that if there'll be a third time, if it'll happen again, the three times this will happen, so then the fourth time it'll be a mud. So the only thing that they gained from this Haggadah Eidus was bringing his shvarim to be closer to a mud. So therefore we say that he was zamam to make it into a mud. If we don't have one of these three conditions, either they were reimzim zezeh, or that they came Ritzufim, or that they were Hikar Balasher V'Hikar Asherei, is then Harikat Rishenu Shnei Pturim. The first two kites that said Eidus are Potter. Sharhei Emrim Dek Taina Libono L'Chai V'Chatzi Nezek. V'Liyodainu Shetovi Kat Acheres V'Yosamud. Masha'enk in the third kat, since we assume that he knows that there was already two kitas, and Memele he was already like, he's a tam that already had two ados on him, so then we say that the third ado, he was trying to make him into a mud, or he knew he was making him into a mud as well, and therefore he's chayiv and ezek shom. So again, the first two kataina, we b'chlal didn't know there's going to be a third. Masha'enk in the third, since he knows that there were two already, and through his ado, he's making it into a mud, so Memele he has to be mishtatev in the ezek shom. So that's this. So the kud of the din is that when a person says something, and then when someone else comes, as a result of what the first one said, together the first and the second one, something happens. So if the first one knew about the second one, they were Ramsim as they were born Ritzufim, so then the first one was mishtativ in this gemar, which is the fact that the shale became a mud. But if the person contained that he didn't know about it and he had no intention of being mishtativ in this procession of the Eidus, so then he only has to pay what he has to pay for his Eidus. But he doesn't, the fact that this was a Hagdama for the next Eidus, and now the share became a Muad, he's not responsible for that. Halacha tes. V'chein shnayim sheyidu b'ben seir u'meir Eidus Rishena. The Seder by Ben Seir u'meir, which we'll learn in Hilchas Mamre. By Ben Seir u'meir, the Seder is that there's the Eidus Rishena, the first two Eidus that come and say how much he ate, and that he stole the money from his parents, and that he ate, etc., etc. And then he gets Malchus. That's what happens after the first set of Eidus come. Then comes the second set of Eidus, and they say that the story happened again. So the second set of Eidus already Mechayiv Misa. That's the Seder. The first set of Eidus is Mechayiv Malchus, and the second set of Eidus is Mechayiv Misa. So now even though L'chura, the first set of Eidus, were also responsible for the Misa, because Sof Kol Sof, the second pair of Eidus, can't be a second pair of Eidus unless there was a first pair of Eidus. But on the other hand, the first pair of Eidus says, I was just being Mechayiv Malchus, I wasn't Mechayiv Misa. So in Mela, the first pair of Eidus won't be Mechayiv Misa. That's this thing. Halacha tes. V'chein shnayim sheyidu ben Seir u'meir Eidus Rishena. The two Eidus said about the ben Seir u'meir Eidus Rishena, and then bo shnayim achareim, another two Eidus came, and v'yidol of Eidus achreina, they made the second set of Eidus, which is Shebo Yehorik, and which through the second set of Eidus is Yehorik. V'huz mushteyem, and lepel there was Hazam on both pairs of Eidus. The din is Hazeh. Is Kata Rishena Leika. The first Kata is only Leika of Ein Hareges. They're not getting killed. Why? We didn't come b'chlal. We didn't come as Agdama to the Eidus Shnir. There was no matzav of Eidus Shnir yet. We're only coming for the Eidus Rishena. Avol Kata Achreina, but the Kata Achreina Nereges. For him Shalpiyim Bilvad Hu Nereg, because Lepel Alpiyim Hu Nereg. They're Nereg because there was a Eidus Rishena. But Lepel, since Alpiyim who's Nereg, you don't need anything more than Alpiyim right now, so therefore they came to kill him. Hoyso hakato achreina arbov. The second kat were four people. Shnai meim b'fanenu gonav, u'shnai meim b'fanenu ochal. So v'huzmu is kula nerogim. Then kula nerogim. In other words, in the case where there's two kitas, the achila rishena and the achila achreina. The achila rishena is malchus, and the achila achreina that's misa. So they get misa. Mashengon over here, we're talking about the achreina. We're talking about the second stealing and eating. And now the Lepel, the side the Edom of the Ganav, inside the Edom of Mechira, of the Achila, are both speaking about something of Misa, and therefore by Huzmu is Kulan Narog. Now Pashalosh Narambam sounds like they have to be Kulan Huzmu. You know, as you have, because it's one Inyan. They're both coming along and saying that Lepel, this person had the Achila Achreina, which comprised of Gneva and Achila. So you have two Edas that are saying about the Achila, two Edas are saying about the Gneva, two Edas are saying about the Achila. Together we have the Edas Achreina, and therefore he's Nerak. Now if they're Huzmu Kulam, just like you can't have two Edas being Huzam out of four. So over here also, since these four Edas Lagabi, this Inyan is one Inyan, so therefore they have to be Huzmu Kulam. So now it's Kulam Narogim. I Lechura let the Edas of the Gneva Taina that we only came L'chayiv Mama. We didn't come B'chlal from Misa. Einochinami, he was a Ben Seir Umeir Eidus Rishena. But Lepel, we only came about the Gneva, and we had no intention b'negei the misa. That's a kasha the Miri asks. So on that, the Aruch Laneri answers that in order that the Eidus, in order that the Eidus of the Achila, the Eidus of the Gneva should be Eidus, proper Eidus, and he should get Misa for this Gneva and the Achila, he had to have Hasra by the Gneva. Whereas he had to have Hasra by the Gneva, that through this Gneva, plus an Achila, he'll be able to get killed. So again, you had the Ben Seir made it in the first story, that he stole and he paid and he ate. So then over there he gets Malchus. Now he has another Maaseh. Again he stole and again he ate. And there were one set of Eidus that saw the stealing and the other set of Eidus that saw the eating. And we're saying they're all together and they're causing the Misa, and therefore these Eidim, when they're Huzmu, they all Kulam Nerogim, they all Nerogim. So first of all, they all have to be Huzim. Can't be two of them are Huzim. Because they're considered one pair of Eidus Lagabi, this Eidus Achrena. That's Lagabi that. And also we say that the Eidim Rishet, the Eidus that are saw the Gneva, have to warn him and say, listen, that for this Gneva plus an Achila, you'll be able to get killed. You'll get killed. So notice, in order to get killed for the Eidus Achrena, he has to have a Hasra before the Maaseh Gneva. That's what it says in the Aruch Laner. There's an issue when you get Tesis, there's an issue, the Mashmois of that Tesis, whether or not it's taka like that. If everyone agrees, this din, that by the Eidus Achrena, so you need to have a Hasra Lemisa before the Gneva. There was a Gneva and there's an Achila. Without an Achila, he's not going to get killed. So you have to have already a Hasra Lemisa by the Gneva, or is it enough to have an Hasra Lemisa by the Achila? So the Pashtus, the fact that the Meiri asks this kasha and he doesn't answer this teretz, the Pashtus, because he doesn't hold it this teretz, but Pashtus he holds that be'emes by the Gneva you don't have to have Hasra Lemisa. Maybe he's asking the kasha. Why can't he taina that he came only to Mechayiv Mammon? But the Aruch Laner is taining no, that Lepeil, by the Eidus of the Gneva, you also have to have Asra Lemisa. So the Rambam continues, He'idim Shnayim Shezeh Gon of Nefesh Yisrael U'Mechoret. You have two Eidim that are saying about someone that he was Gon of Nefesh Yisrael U'Mechoret, and Lepeil says Chayiv Misa, and V'Huzmo. So the din is Harei L'Nechnokim. They were trying to Mechayiv this person Misa, so Mela, they get Misa. Now he either shnayim shegonvei and we either shnayim acherim shemachrei. Now you have two sets of edus. One is speaking about the gneva and one is talking about the mechira. But lepel, they're both saying one inyan that he was gonvei umacharei. Bein shehuzmu edi gneva, bein shehuzmu edi mechira is called katmeham shehuzmu neregas. So we hear the Rambam is saying clearly that even though this inyan that he should be chayiv misa comes through a gneva and a mechira. But Lepel, the two of them together were Mechayiv and Misa through the Gneva and the Mechira. But now, when they're Huzam, even if the Gneva themselves are Huzam, or the Mechira themselves are Huzam, so each one is Neregas. Why? Shahagneva hitchilas chiyuv shel Misa, and that's why the Gneva is considered Misa. But Lepel, each one separately is also considered Misa, which is l'chura differently than we learned before. B'negea, Ben Seir Meir. Which over there's an achila, there's a gneva and their achila. In order for them to be chayiv misa, you have to have all of them huzmu. That's pashlosh naram. V'huzmu kulam nerogim. It's not clear v'huzmu kulam nerogim. But al kopam the Rambam doesn't say clearly. He certainly doesn't write that each kat could be huzim separately. The pashtas they have to be huzim together. Mashenkin over here, the Rambam says clearly that lepeil it could be huzmei the mechira or is called kat me'am shehuzma neregas. And the reason why the gneva is also neregas. So the question is, what's the chilik? So that they bring, because in Yecheskel says that the pshat is that you have you have to understand this word that b'negeya gneva by goynev ishim mecharei, there's ki'ilu two inyanim. There's two things that happened. He was a goynev ish that was one ma'isa, and then there was a mecharei was a separate ma'isa. Now lepel each aid said about a separate inyan. And Lepel, through these two inyanim, he was chayiv misa. So maybe each aid was involved in being mechayiv in misa, but each aid is considered a separate thing. Mashenken by Ben Seir Meir, it's not the pshat. There was a maisa gneva, and then there was a maisa achila. The gneva and the achila is considered like one thing. So even though there's two eidim taka, and there's two pairs of eidim, one is speaking about the gneva, one is speaking about the achila. But Lepel, since it's one thing, it's achila mechueres, that he was ganav and then he was ochal, so it's all like one inyan. So therefore, you wouldn't be able to have an inyan of you can't have a Edom Zayman only on two Edom that's speaking about the Gneva, or two Edom that's speaking on the Mechira, Beneged the Achila rather, you have to have two Edom on both. It has to be explained better. But that's the Vort. The Vort is that over here, the Gnove, Gonve, Mechari is two separate Inyanim. So Mele, so Lepel, the two of them together were being Mechayiv and Misa, and each one is separately, because each one is speaking about a different Nakuda, about the Gneva and about the Mechira. Masha'inkin over here, by the Edom Zemim, so each, even though the Chori, you can have a Shaila, the Manav Shach, if you're going to tell me it's one Inyan, so then it's a Shaila of Dover, V'chalei Chotzi Dover, how could the Edom say only on the Gneva and not on the Achila? But I'll call upon him, the din is, that's clear. The din is that if you have two Edom on the Gneva, two Edom on the Achila, so he's Chayiv Misa, and Lepel, when you mazim them, if you mazim all four together, so then the Edom are Chayiv Misa. Mashenkel, if you're not mazim all four together, the Edom aren't Chayiv Misa. Benegea Tvachim Mechorei, I'm sorry, Benegea, if a person is gain of Ish Umechorei, so over there again, you Chayiv Misa, side the Goyne, side the one that said Eidus about the Gneva, side the one that said about the Mechorei, and over here they could be Chayiv Misa without each other. Each separate kat could also be Mechayiv Misa. Eidus Shnayim Shemocher L'Zeh Yisrael. You have two Eidus saying Eidus about someone that he sold a Yid. And now V'huzmu, these two Eidim were Huzam, but there's no Eidim V'lei Hoyu Sham Eidim Shegonvi. There's no Eidim B'chlal that was Gonvi. You only have Eidim that are saying there was Mochrei. And Lewa Huzam is a Reilib Turim. Shafilu Lei Huzmu, Lei Hoyu Zen Nerak, B'pnei Sheyochel Lei Ma'avdi Macharti. The whole musik of Huzam is only if they tried to cause someone to get killed, and Lepel there was a Gmar Din, that he should be killed. So then, when you're Zemim, you get killed also. Masha'inkin over here, they didn't try to get him killed. Because Lepel, when they say about someone that he sold someone without having Edom that he stole him, there's no Yisod to kill him. Because Lepel, who says that maybe he was his Eved? Who says that you stole him? So I'll call upon him, Mochar is not a reason to kill that person. So if you're Huzim, you also don't get killed. Now, Bo Edi Gneva, Achar Shehuzma Edi Mechira. That's the Girsa, that's the regular Rambams. Bo Edi Gneva, Achar Shehuzma Edi Mechira. So here we have a case where you have Edom that said that he sold someone, and that this person sold someone, and now you have another pair of Edom that are saying that this person, which they were already Edom that he sold, you should know that he stole him. So the pale vice is the din is that even normally the Seder is that there's Edom that it was Gnove Umechari. First it was Gnove and then he was Mechari. But you could also have a Seder where Edom come along and say that he was Mechar. And then you can have other pairs of Edom, another pair of Edom which saying Gonav, and also be Mechayiv Misa, vice this. Doesn't have to be in a Seder that the Edom first said the Gonav and then the Edom said Machar. The Edom could first say the Machar and then there's another Edom that are saying Gonav. So that's number one. But the pale, what happened over here was, now the Loshna Rambam is Bo Edi Gneva Acha Shehuzma Edi Mechira. So Edom came Edi Mechira, and then they were Bo Edi Gneva. So the din is Afila Re'ino Isam Reimzim Zeh. Even if we saw that the Edi Gneva and the Edi Mechira were Reimzim Zeh, nevertheless Ein Naragim, because Ein Naragim. So L'chura, the question is, my Kamashma. Obviously, when the Edi Mechira said their Eidus, their viola, there was no Chiyav Misa. So there couldn't have been a Gemar Din. Now, if the Edi Gneva are coming after Huzmu Edi Mechira, so again, there was never a Gemar Din that is Chayiv Misa. This person that they're speaking about, there was never a Gemar Din that is Chayiv Misa, because the Edi Gneva came after Huzmu Edi Mechira. So what's the Chidush that Ein Narogim? So that's the Kasha. The Chud is very hard to understand. So therefore, Reb Chaim, the Amos says, that the Girsa should be Koidim. He changes from the Acher to the Koidim. He says, Bo Edi Gneva Koidim Shehuzma Edi Mechira. So what happened was there was Edi Mechira, and then there was Edi Gneva, and they came Koidim Shehuzma Edi Mechira, and now Lepel, now we could have a Psagdin of Misa. So L'chura, the person, the Edi Mechira should be killed. So now we say, no, Afila Re'inu Oisam Roimzim Zeh. Even if we saw that the Edi Mechira knew about the Edi Gneva that are going to come later, Ein Narogim, because even though we learned before that Reimzim says Benegei Asher Amud is considered one pair of Eidus, and therefore they are Chayiv Mammon, but that's only a din by Mammon and not by Misa. You're not going to go ahead and be Mechayiv Misa based on the Reimzim Zeh. So Nachamon. When the Edi Mechira come along themselves, nothing happens. Nothing could happen. And if they were huzam, and then the Eidel Gneva came, so obviously again nothing happened, because when the Eidel Gneva came along, there was not shaykh to make up sagdin, because they were already huzam. So we're talking a case over here that the Eidel Mechira came, and they said that he was mocher. But on the other hand, you can't pass him based on it, because Lepel, maybe he was mocher his own evet. And vice versa is like a chidush, that we mem on this Eidus, like we registered this Eidus, that we know that he was mocher. But Lepel, maybe he was his evet. Now another pair of Eidim are coming and saying that he was that he was ganaf before the mechira. So now we know that he was ganaf a mocher, and vice versa, we would go kill him. Vice versa, if there's not going to be a hazama, the person will be killed. And those like a chiddush over here that the Eidus of mechira is considered a haggadas Eidus, even though at this point in time when they're saying the mechira is not relevant, because lepel at this point in time it doesn't mean anything, because maybe it was mocher his own evet. But nevertheless, it's something that legabi that later on there'll be Eidi Gneva will say that. So we know now that he was going to a macher. That's why it's from the Rambam. But lepel, if lepel, that's what happened. There was an Eidi Mechira, and then there was Eidi Gneva. So now we say that even later on, when you're going to be mazim the Eidi Mechira, if you're going to be mazim the Eidi Mechira, so then you're not going to go ahead and kill the Eidi Mechira, even though it was Ramzu Zezeh. That's this. Afilari, no Reis Lem Zezeh, Ein an Arogim, they're not Neret. But the pastors, if you're going to be Mazim, the Eidi Gneva, so you will be Neret. Because Lepel, the Eidi Gneva, we're trying to Mechayiv Modman, if we're talking about that it was, that the Eidi, obviously we're talking about that the Eidi Gneva came before it was Huzam Eidi Mechira. In other words, if we're taking on this change of the Girsa, the way Reb Chaim is saying, other Acharim also say it, so then it'll come out that the Eidi Mechira Taka won't get killed by Azama. But the Eidi Gneva could get killed, like the Ram said before, that the Eidi Gneva and the Eidi Mechira are not totally one each other. You could have the Eidi Gneva killed, not the Eidi Mechira. So Al Derech Zev, the Eidi Gneva came after the Eidi Mechira, so then the Eidi Gneva could still have Hazom on them, but the Eidi Mechira can't be killed. Which again, the Rambam doesn't say it so clearly, so we'll have to say that Ein Nerogim is going only on the Eidi Mechira, not on the Eidi Gneva. Halacha Yud. Meitzi Shemra al Ishtei, Shehevi's Eidim Shezinsa Kshiyarusa. So normally the din is if someone's Meitzi Shemra and Lepel, he brings Eidim Shezinsa Kshiyarusa, so if nothing happens, so she gets killed. Because Lepel, there's Eidim that she was in Kshiyarusa. If the father comes and brings Eidim that'll be Mazim, the Eidim of the Baal, that the Baal brought, so now those Eidim get killed, and the Baal has to pay Lavia Naira Mea Kesef. That's the Baal also gets Malchus, but besides that he has to pay Mea Kesef Lavia Naira. So that's his din. So normally, when a person is Meitzi Shemra al Ishtei, and he brings Eidim Shezinsa, so if those Eidim aren't found to be liars, so those you don't find Zaymimim, they're not found to be Zaymimim, so then she gets killed. If Lepel you bring Eidim to be Mazim, those Eidim, so then those Eidim get killed, and the Baal has to pay Meir Kesef to Lavia Nair. Meitzi Shemra al Ishtei, Shehevi Eidim Shezinsa Kshiyarusa, and then Vehevi Eidim Vizimu. And now the father came and brought Eidim to be Mazim, the Eidi Abal. So the din is Hare Eidi Abal Nerogim, the Eidi Abal Nerogim, and the Baal has to pay Meir Kesef. Now Chazer Habal Vehevi Eidim, now the Baal brought another set of Eidim, Vehizimu Eidi Hav. So they were Mazim, the Eidi Hav, which were Mazim his Eidim. So there's the original Eidim that the Baal brought, then there's the Eidim that the father brought to be Mazim, the Eidi Abal, then there's another set of Eidim that the Baal brought to be Mazim, the Eidi Hav, the Izimu Eidi Hav. So now is Ari Eidi Hav Nerogim, because they tried to kill the Eidi Abal, and also Umishalman Mama Labal. So the Eidi Hav, besides the fact that they're Nerogim, they also tried to cause the Baal to have to pay the Meir Kesef. In other words, the Mizima, the Eidim that the father brought, wanted to cause that the Eidim should get killed, the Eidim that the Baal brought should be killed, and also that the Baal should have to pay the father Meir Kesef. So the Mela now, these Eidi Ha'av, which tried to do that, and they're now Huzam, so they're Neherogim, they get killed, because they tried to kill the Eidi Ha'bal, and also Mishalman Mamal Abal. Neherogim, Eidi Ha'bal, Nigmar Dinam La'ariga Beidusam, because they tried to kill the Eidi Abal, and Lupel was Nigmar Dinam. It wasn't just tried, it was actually Nigmar Dinam La'ariga Beidusam. Only then do they get killed. And also Mishalman Knas, they have to pay the Knas to the father, Mipnei shenigmar din habal l'shalom knas beidusa, because Lepel, the father, was mechuyev to pay knas based on their Eidus, because he was a Meitzi Shemra. That was based on their Eidus that they were mazim him, so he was a Meitzi Shemra. Now that they were huzam, so in Mela, so they have to pay him on. V'nimtzu chayav nefashos l'zeh mama l'zeh, since they're mechuyev nefashos because they tried to kill the Eidi Abal, and the chayav moment because they tried to pay Mechayiv Moment to the Baal, so Mela, we don't say this din that you don't Sai get killed and Sai paid. Over here, since it's Nefashis Lazeh or Mama Lazeh, you pay it. So you in other words, you pay the Moment and you also the Nefashis. So Nacham, so the Eidi Ha'av get killed because they tried to kill the Eidi Habal, and also they have to pay Mammon because they tried to be Mechayiv Mammon to the Baal. And that's called Nefashis Lazeh, Mama Lazeh, and we don't say that there's a ptur that you don't get both onshim. That's the din. That's the yisod of Nefashis Lazeh, Mama Lazeh. Even though they're chayiv Nefashis for one person and Mama for another person, nevertheless, even though the chayiv sign Nefashis sign Mama, they're getting killed and they're paying Mama. But since it's Nefashis Lazeh, the Nefashis is because of one person, and the Mama is because of another person, so then they're chayiv on both. V'chein Shnayim sheidu al zeh shebo al naira murasa. They come along and they say that someone was a Baal naira murasa v'huzmu. So the din is nerogim ve'mishalman because there's no moment involved. They're saying that he was Baal naira murasa. They don't say who the naira murasa was. So they don't say who the naira murasa was. So basically they're saying he was over the issur of being Baal naira murasa. So mainly they get killed. They get killed. Now, however, if they come along and they say not stama naira murasa, they say bo al biti shel pleni. So they're saying that he was born Naira Murasa, but this Naira Murasa is Bitel Shel Pleni. And then Vahuzmu, and then they're Huzmu. So the din is Nerogim, they're getting killed because they tried to be Mechayev this person to be killed. They came along and they said that he was born Naira Murasa. Bitel Shel Pleni, which was a Naira Murasa. So they get killed because they were Huzim. They said Eidus that this person should get killed. And also, Umshalman Haknas Lavia. And besides the fact that they get killed, they also have to pay the knas la'aviyah, and that's another example of nefashis lazeh u'mammon lazeh. Now these words, u'b'shalman ha'knas la'aviyah, there's a deal in what's the pshat, because l'chura, what kind of knas is it? Again, we have a case over here that someone, Edom come along and say, bo al biti shel pleni v'huzmu. Two Edom are coming and saying that this and this person was bo al biti shel pleni and v'huzmu. So the first case was Baal Naira Murasa Huzmu. So that case is talking about, he's saying that someone's Chayiv Misa, and the Huzmu said Chayiv Misa. Now Baal Biti Shel Pleni, so they're saying exactly who was the Naira Murasa that was also involved in this in Baal Bite. They say who the Bite is. They say Baal Biti Shel Pleni. So then it's then Neharogim, because they're saying that this person is Chayiv Misa because being Baal Biti Shel Pleni, and also Mishalman Aknas Lavia, they're being mafsid the knas la'aviyah. What kind of knas is there la'aviyah that they're being mafsid? It's not so clear what's this knas that we're talking about. So some people say it means that we're talking about a chiyav ksuba, that since she was ba, she was an Naira Marasa, it was also nivala, so maybe she loses her right to the ksuba. It's not the lashon knas. The Tumen wants to say a davar mechudish, that it's Baal Biti Shel Pleni v'huzmu, is talking about, like there was two stories. There was a story first that a person was Meitzi Shemra. He was a Meitzi Shemer. He brought Eidim that Ishta was inside. And then the father came along and he also brought Eidim to be mazim those Eidim. So Mela it comes out that those Eidim should be killed. And now also that the Baal owes the father Mea Kesef. Now the Baal came along and brought other Eidim that said Baal Bita Shel Pleinus. He brought other Eidim. So saying that this word that says Baal Bita Shel Pleni is not just talking about Baal Bita Shel Pleni. It's coming by Hamshel that there was a Meitzi Shemra, and then there was Hazama on the Meitzi Shemra. So at this point in time, the Baal owes the Meir Kesef. And now when the Baal is bringing another pair of Eidos that's saying Baal Bita Shel Pleni, so they're saving the Baal from having to pay the Meir Kesef to the father. And they're also trying to be Mechayiv this person Misa. So then these Eidim, which are Sai being Mechayiv that person Misa, and Sai being saving the Baal from having to pay the father, so they're going to have to be Leiko Mishal. I'm going to get Misa Mishal. They get Misa because they tried to kill whoever they said was Baal Bita Shel Pleni, and also they're Chayiv Mammon because they were trying to be Mafsid the father the master of the father from the Meya Kesef, which he was supposed to get because of the Mitzvah Shemra, which originally happened. So you have to add a whole story to the story that Baal Bita Shalpleni V'Huzmu is talking about Behemshah, that there was already a Mitzvah Shemra and there was already a Hazama on the Mitzvah Shemra, which is a Dover Mechudesh. Then the Ram continues, Pleni Rava Hasher V'Huzmu. They say that Pleni Rava Hasher, they're not saying which share, is Niskolim, or Bevein Mishal, because there's no one that they were being Mechayiv Moment. However, they said Pleni was Rava, Sheirishal Pleni, they said whose share it was. So then is Niskolim, so they get killed because Lepel, they were saying that it's Chayiv Skila, and also Mishalman Me'asher Lebal Asher, because by saying Rava, Sheirishal Pleni, they were being Mechayiv, they were answering that share, because that share becomes Chayiv Skila. When a person was Riveya Asher, that share is Chayiv Skila. So these Eidim were trying to be Mechayiv, the Riveya Misa, Skila, and they were also trying to be Mafsid, the Bala share from the share, that the share should be Chayiv Skila. So the principle over here is that even though a person normally doesn't get Misa and pay, but that's only when it's talking about Misa and paying for the same person. Masha'inkin, if it's Misa Lazeh, Mama Lazeh, like in these cases, so then Isai gets Misa and Sai is Mishal.